Okay, I think I am. It should be.
Yeah, I got like a notification. It was like, it's recording.
Okay, perfect. It's 6:30.
Okay, I will admit who is here.
Okay. Hello, everybody.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, all my friends coming in. Hello,
If
I love seeing these
everyone
names.
could do us a favor and set your name on Zoom to the student who's registered its name, so just so that we can take attendance and give you credit for being here, that would really help us out.
Hello, everybody coming in. It's so fun to see your names. I know Amanda and Ari probably feel the same way, that we've chatted with so many of you, so it's fun to be in the same space as you, kind of. And I'm going to keep saying this to remind people, but we are recording this meeting. It's being recorded on Zoom just so that we can share it later with people who couldn't make it tonight. So if you don't want to be recorded, if you don't want your voice to be recorded, please know that this is being recorded. So just keep your camera off and your mic on mute. And we will get started in just a minute. Awesome. Ari, did you see there's some people in the chat saying their students' names, just so you know?
Yes.
I hope we have some people in here that are coming to Destination Day this Saturday. It is going to be really fun. We've got a lot of stuff planned for you. It's a busy day, so definitely think about shoes, because I will say also a lot of our campus, as you can see in this picture a little bit, is brick walkways too. So definitely something to think about when you're picking your ensemble for the day. Amanda, I think, do you guys want to go ahead?
Yeah, I think we are all set.
Okay, cool. Awesome. So we'll start by just kind of introducing ourselves. Amanda, you want to start?
Yeah, so hi everyone. My name is Amanda. I'm probably familiar to some of you. I am the admissions counselor for students who are in Fairfax County, Virginia. So if you are in Fairfax County, hopefully this isn't the first time you're seeing my face or hearing my name. I was a first generation student. And so hopefully by starting early and going through some of the things, we can put some of your minds at ease. I remember feeling like the people around me knew a lot of things, and there were words being used around me and things that I felt like other people knew that I didn't know, and I didn't know who to ask or where to go for that information, or necessarily like I could ask. I felt like I should know these things and didn't, and so there were a lot of things that went unanswered, and so hopefully tonight you will walk away feeling a little bit more empowered, feeling like you've heard some of these terms before and know where you can go to get your answers.
Yeah, definitely so. My name's Emily Burke. I'm the admissions counselor for some of our local areas. So I work with students in Spotsy and Stafford, as well as Alexandria and Arlington. And then I also have North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. So I get a little bit of all over in the South, that is. So I'm also an alum of Mary Wash. I graduated in 2015. And I don't share Amanda's story of being a first generation college student, but with my areas, I get to work with a lot of people. And I'm also a first generation American American. So I know that there are some challenges that are set up in all kinds of systems where it feels like we don't know stuff that other people know, and that makes it hard to feel, vulnerable to ask questions. So exactly like Amanda said, we really just want tonight to be about empowering you to feel like you're kind of caught up.
I love that. So hi guys. Yeah, my name is Ariana Less. So my territories are going to be the Richmond area, the Northern Neck area, Prince William, Caroline County, and King George County. So I am also, one of the admissions counselors here and also an alum. So I just graduated last year. So very exciting. I'm actually doing my commencement ceremony this year. So I'm really, really excited about that. And I am also a first generation. So on kind of like my end, like my mom, didn't really know English. So it was kind of a lot of translating and all that. So, it was a different aspect of what like your college experience would look like. But of course, like I love her. She was there with me the entire route. So she really tried her best. And so I definitely understand that perspective. And we hope that during this session, we can kind of like all conjoin together and, like move forward with that. So, yeah.
Awesome. So the ways to kind of make tonight the most useful, I think, is that we're going to kind of do a broad overview of a lot of things. So we're not going to be able to go super in depth on a lot of things, but I think this way we'll have some terminology that you're going to see a lot. So that's really what we're focusing on tonight. The words and the departments and the acronyms that you're going to hear a ton from here on till your student moves in and even into their first weeks and years at school. So we just want to empower you to have those words and terminology and also kind of have a place to start. So I really recommend taking pictures of the screen. We're going to have a lot of contact info for different departments. So if something stands out as something you've been wondering about, please feel free to follow up with that or follow up with us if we're your counselors or your admissions counselor if you want to go into depth about other things like cost or concerns with programs, any questions that we can answer for you. Ari, what you going to be doing? I'll answer. Ari's going to be in the chat also. So if anybody has questions, Ari's going to be in the chat answering questions, and we'll also have time for questions at the end.
Oh, I'm sorry, guys. It lagged a little bit. Yeah, no, I'll be in the chat. In English and Spanish if you guys need Spanish speaking as well.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, so just to give you kind of a little bit of an overview of what we're going to be doing tonight, we're going to start with some terms. So both UMW specific terms, but also just more general terms that we use in higher education. And so, want to make sure that you're familiar with. We're going to go over a couple of the offices that you're probably going to want to know, as well as some of the contact information, and kind of talk a little bit about what those offices do and what their responsibilities are. We're going to go over systems to know. So if you've already deposited, some of you probably have already started getting emails about logging into different systems and filling out different forms. And so we're going to go over the systems that you're going to need to use and what those are used for. And then we're going to chat a little bit about what's coming up, ways that you can get prepared over the summer and what you can anticipate moving forward.
Awesome. Let's dive in.
All right, so I know probably one of the things that are at the forefront of your mind right now is money, and reading your financial aid package and thinking about kind of this big cost that's coming up. So we just wanted to kind of cover some of the lingo that is used to talk about college and money. So the first part I'm going to talk about is loans. Subsidized versus unsubsidized. So these two type of loans are typically the ones that come from the government. They are based on your FAFSA information and they come from the federal government. There are also private loans, but we highly recommend that you take the government ones first because they typically have a lower interest rate and better payback options. So subsidized loans are loans that the government offsets the interest of until you graduate. So those loans do not begin accruing interest that you have to pay back until after you graduate. Unsubsidized loans begin accruing interest the day they're dispersed. So if you're offered loans and you don't think you need all of the money, you're going to want to take those subsidized ones first, because you're going to have that interest deferred until you graduate. And so you're ultimately going to end up paying back less than if you take the unsubsidized ones. There, you probably will also see on your financial aid packet some grants and scholarships. These are both terms that we use to talk about money that you don't have to pay back. So grants and scholarships are money that is given to you. Sometimes they're merit-based, so it's money for getting good grades or for doing community service or writing a good essay. Sometimes it is need-based, so that's money we give you to help offset the cost of attendance based on the information that's provided to us in the FAFSA. There are also sometimes work study opportunities that are presented to you on your financial aid package. This can get a little bit confusing because it seems like it would be a scholarship or a loan or something of that vein, but really on your end, you won't see much of the goings on that happens with work study. Work study is money that the government provides us as a school in order to employ you as a student. So if you were to get a job on campus, we would pay you out of that fund first and then out of our budget. You don't have to have work study in order to have a job on campus. If you don't want to have a job on campus, you don't have to take your work study. It really is not something that you would really ever have to deal with. It's something that happens on our end. And then Emily, the bottom of that screen's
sorry. The last one is about credits like DE, IB, AP.
Yes, so those are all things that you can use to kind of offset kind of merit-wise. You know, we like to see challenging coursework on a student's record. So AP, IB, dual enrollment courses are a way to demonstrate merit to us, but they also are credits that you then won't have to take when you're in college. So if you transfer those in, it's fewer credits that you'll need.
Awesome. So when you're at Mary Washington, some of this you might already know if you visited us on campus and done an info session from Amanda or Ari or myself or any of the admissions counselors. We've talked a little bit about some of the words that you'll hear when we're talking about making up your degree. So a college degree is at Mary Washington is made up of about 120 credits, broken up pretty evenly into thirds. Those are with your gen ed courses or general education, if we were taking our time with it, our elective courses, and your major courses. So when you're coming in over the summer, you're going to get the schedule that we'll come back to in just a second. And that's going to kind of start the groundwork of making sure that you're fulfilling your gen ed credits. So what are gen eds? These are the things where we make sure that when you leave, no matter what your major is, if you majored in religion, if you majored in English, if you majored in math or computer science, that everybody with a Mary Washington degree can write well, speak well, and think critically. That's what we care about the most, that everybody has those skills going out into the world and sharing our name and all our glory with that. So we want to make sure everybody's taking writing intensives, everybody has to take speaking intensives, and everybody has to take quantitative reasoning. So still, you can fulfill those requirements in the different fields of study, but we want everybody to kind of stretch their brain and get acquainted with those skills that you'll use long after Mary Washington. Electives, this is kind of a way to round out, get that really well-rounded education that we care so much about at a liberal arts school like Mary Washington. But this is also the way to kind of get the experience and fill in those 120 credits. So if you're a business major, but you really love music or studio art or English, this is the perfect time to take something like that. And then your major is your field of study where you are coming with the most expertise. So you're going to take the highest level of classes in your majors. So when I was a theater major at Mary Washington, I started in 200 level classes. Then I took some 300 level classes. Then I took some 400 level classes. And that's where your opportunity comes to get a really niche and a really detailed education in the subject that you're interested in. So right now, while you can certainly think about what you're interested in majoring in, you don't have to decide right now. In fact, we don't want you to decide right now, because we say this with love and respect that so many of us, what we think we wanted to do when we were 16 or 18 or 17 have changed our minds by the time we're 30. Amanda, Ari, do you think that's true?
Absolutely. I was going to go to medical school, so
Yeah.
clearly that is not where I ended up, but
And that's the
you'll
gift.
figure it out, and we're here to help you with that.
Exactly. And that's the gift of the liberal arts education too, is that this first year especially, it's time to try out new things. You might think you're going to be a doctor, and then you sit in a college level organic chemistry class and say, I hate this, absolutely not. Or you might think you're going to be a doctor and you sit in an American Studies class and say, oh my gosh, I love this, I didn't even know it existed. So there's all kinds of ways to change your mind, which is, I think, the gift of higher education in general.
All right, so classes, credits, and advising. This is also probably something that is on the forefront of your mind. How do I register for classes? What's an advisor? How do I change classes if I don't like them? So your academic advisor is going to be your point of contact for all things to do with your classes most of the time. Your first year at Mary Washington, your advisor will be the person who teaches your first year seminar. So your first semester, you will see this person all the time. You'll see them 3 days a week. Typically in class. So there's someone that you're going to form a relationship with. They are there to help you make decisions about classes. Ultimately, your registration is up to you and you can take what you want, but they're there to help make sure that you are completing those 3 categories of classes and that you're setting yourself up for success. You're not, overloading on labs one semester, or, taking too many of natural science classes and you're not getting enough of those social science classes in to finish your gen eds. They're really there to help talk through all of those options with you. Typically, you have to meet with your advisor before registration every semester, and just so that we can make sure that everyone is on track. For your first year, we will make your first semester schedule based on your answers to your first year questionnaire. You'll then have the opportunity to meet with your advisor over the summer via Zoom, and talk about any changes you might want to make. And that kind of brings us up to the add drop period. So the add drop period is typically the first week of every semester, and that's your opportunity to make changes. That's your opportunity to sit in the first day of an organic chemistry class and say, I can't do this, I don't want to be here, and then go chat with your advisor and say, hey, I need to drop organic chemistry, and you'll find something to replace that you will then add. After the add drop period, you cannot enroll in any other classes. So if there is a class that you think you want to take more than the class that you're already in, you only have that add drop period in order to do that. Afterwards, if you need to drop a class, you'll need to do what's called a withdrawal, which is a little bit different. Add drop period is no consequences. You can get out of a class, you can add a class, and nothing will happen. After that period, it's a little bit more complicated. All of this will be gone over with you again. You'll get your schedule, you'll get to, look at everything and chat with the other students in your first year seminar during your summer orientation. So orientation is an overnight experience. So you'll be there for 2 days. You'll get to be in the dorms and meet all of the people who are in your class. And so those dates are on the screen. Registration for that is open. So if you have paid your deposit, you can go ahead and pick one of those dates. If those dates don't work for you, there are some make-up options later in the summer, but you will have kind of the best experience if you do that June orientation date, because those are the main ones we want you to go to.
Awesome. Amanda, you want to do this one too?
Yeah, I can do that one. So for the offices that you should know, again, you don't have to memorize these. You can take a picture of your screen, but we just kind of wanted to introduce you to some of these and what they look like. So there's the Office of Disability Resources. If you have any sort of disability that requires accommodation, whether that's a learning disability or a physical disability, you would go through ODR. Their email is just odr@umw.edu. You'll notice a theme here. And they will help you make sure that you get the disability accommodations that you are entitled to. The Office of Financial Aid is where you will chat about loans, scholarships, grants, any money that is not coming out of your pocket goes through financial aid. So say you're a Girl Scout and you get a Girl Scout scholarship, you would chat with financial aid to make sure that we get that added to your account. Now, the Office of Student Accounts is where you pay your bill. So if you haven't completely covered the cost of attendance with scholarships, loans, grants, and things like that, and you have to pay some things out of pocket, that's going to go through student accounts. So that is who generates your bill. That's who sets up payment plans and all of those sorts of things. The Office of Residence Life handles all housing. So if you're having trouble logging into the housing portal, or you have questions about what you're allowed to bring in the residence hall, all of those is going to go through Residence Life. And the last one on here is the Office of the Registrar. This may be a new word for you. That was a new word for me. I had never heard the word registrar before I stepped on campus for the first time. And this is anything to do with registration. So registrar, registration. So after kind of that initial first semester schedule that we build for you, the registrar is who will handle scheduling your classes. You'll go through their systems to make your course schedule every semester. They're who you'll talk to for ad drop. And if you get sick or have something where you might need to leave for a semester, they process withdrawals as well.
Awesome.
Alrighty, guys. So these are some common systems that you guys are going to be taking a look at. The first one is Banner. I will tell you, you will use Banner a lot. So Banner is going to be like your Facebook profile page. So this is going to be like where you're going to see everything about you. So your schedule, registering for courses, like Amanda just said, adding and dropping, updating your personal and contact information. Make sure you keep that up to date all the time. And then maintenance requests, anything that you would need like for your dorm, different things like that. Canvas is a really big one. So Canvas is going to be how you're going to be communicating with your professors, communicating with some of your classmates. So you're going to be seeing your course information, syllabus, grades. It's also how some professors want you to turn in assignments, essays, different things like that. So that's pretty big. You will get a tutorial in class on how to use it if you've never used Canvas before, but it's pretty simple. I mean, it's very straightforward, so I would not be too scared about it. Eagle Pay is also another one of our big ones. It's how you're going to be able to view and pay your bills, and you're also able to add authorized payers on there. If it's like not yourself and you want to add somebody else, you can definitely have them on there as well. And you're more than welcome to take a picture of this just so you can kind of have this for reference, just as well as our next slide coming up here too.
All right. 3, 2, 1.
So this one is another one. I will keep in mind, I did see in the chat that we do have some commuter students. So some of this may not resonate with you, and that's definitely okay. Still keep it on your loop, your pictures, just in case you ever have questions, or if you have a friend that has questions, you'll be like, oh, this is where you pay for your laundry machines, which is our Wash Alert, our Eagle One and Flex. So that'll be with your student photo ID. It's also like for food and money. Your portal, which is what you use now, is how you've been accessing your checklist and you're completing your FYQ. So this is all stuff that you guys know. We're just going over it a little bit. And then your scholarship database manager. So you would use that through financial aid, and you would apply through UMW Foundation scholarships, your health portal. So that's how you're going to upload all your information that you need for your immunization, health records, and then your housing portal as well. That's going to be Star Res. And then if you need to communicate with any one of those people, you would use ResLife at umw.edu. Again, I would definitely take a picture of this because it's a lot of information, right? So you want to have it close to you whenever you need it.
Yeah, awesome. It's funny, we know that there's so many departments, and sometimes I think that can feel kind of, that bureaucratic feeling, but it's because everybody gets to know how to do these things really well. So it really helps to have departments that are fully in charge of these kind of systems. But these are definitely ones you'll see a lot. So this is where I kind of want to talk about what y'all can be doing. So what I really think is important is starting now and then throughout the summer, have really honest conversations as a family, as a unit, and talk about what are we thinking realistically about money? Do I want to add somebody as an authorized payer, which, like Ariana said, that means somebody besides the student who may be in charge of paying bills or contributing to bills. So from the point of enrollment, emails only go to the student. All billing emails, all that stuff goes directly to the student. So think of it as homework, your first homework assignment of being very responsible of either forwarding that email to mom and dad or setting somebody up as an authorized payer. And then start talking about the money that we might not necessarily be seeing on the bills, but we do need to be thinking about big picture. So when it comes time to buy textbooks in the first week of school, when it comes time to buy school supplies or bedding or decorations for your dorm, when it comes time for those things, start thinking about what are the expectations for who's going to take care of that? Is that on me? Is somebody else going to gift that to me? Be really honest, because it just helps for these conversations to not be surprises when we're in the bottom of the ninth. You know what I mean? Then I want you to start thinking for my students that are going to live on campus. And also I'll say real quick, anybody that's a commuter student is probably one of mine since I've got these local areas. So please touch base with me if you want to talk about any specifics that do or don't apply to commuter students. But for my people who are going to live on campus, start thinking about what is really necessary for you to take with you, because maybe those are things that you have to think about budgeting out between now and then when it comes to purchasing things starting in, is it March until August. So spreading out purchases. Do you have a laptop? Do you want a laptop? Do you have sheets for an extra long twin bed? What are the things that would really make you feel good to have at college, and then have that kind of prepared so that it's not feeling like we have to spend all this money in a rush right before move-in. And then parents especially, make sure we've got these dates on our calendar. We know that coming to college is not just a celebration and an accomplishment for your student, but for everybody in your family. I mean, I know I look back and I think there was a lot of times that my parents pushed me to do extra things and kind of be really prepared and competitive as a high school student so that I could go to college. So we are very aware that this is a whole family and a whole community accomplishment. And we also want to celebrate y'all. So in the fall, we have something called Family Weekend. We also have UMW Homecoming in the fall. I don't know if I think we don't have those dates set yet, but it's a really fun weekend. If you can put it on your calendar, we would love to have you on campus. So your students, once they're really kind of feeling at home and settled in there, they can show you around and show you the life that you helped them build. So we really want to celebrate you too. At this point, I see the chat is popping off. So we're happy to answer any questions if you want to unmute and chat, or if you want to type in the chat. Ari and Amanda, were y'all seeing questions that you think we should start with?
looks
Yeah,
like
so
we
there
were
were
getting-
a couple questions about orientation.
Mhm.
If you need to know what orientation date you signed up for, if you have questions about orientation and can't make any dates, you're going to email the orientation team. So sometimes it can be a little bit difficult to keep track of where all of these things are going, because there's so many different offices on campus, and we all manage different systems. So we can pull up that screen with the offices again so that you can get all of that contact information. But you're going to ask orientation about dates and things like that. There's also a question about staying overnight. So it is an overnight experience, and guests. So you can bring guests to orientation. If parents want to come, we do have some sessions for them. It is a small fee to bring a guest for orientation, but we do not provide accommodations for guests overnight. So if your parents are coming to orientation, and you're traveling from any sort of distance, they'll probably need to get a hotel room for that evening portion, because the students are going to stay in the dorms, but they are welcome to come for the daytime portions of orientation. And we have a question about choosing roommates for orientation. Roommates for orientation are assigned as you arrive. So if there's someone that you really want to room with for orientation, you need to show up together, because they just hand out rooms kind of as you show up. So that's the best way to make sure that you get a roommate, but we don't take roommate requests. They're not assigned beforehand.
Yeah, awesome. And they are really accommodating. We want it, even though it is one night, we still really want you to have a good time. And I always encourage people, if you have a roommate by then, try and schedule it so that you're there at the same orientation session. It's not the end of the world, but I think it's kind of fun, like a little test run. But it's a really, really fun overnight experience. They have so much good stuff planned for y'all. There's always like a late night pizza party and lots of really fun kind of learning about traditions and really feeling like you're part of campus. So Trinity asked about picking roommates. Unless I just want to double check. I know Amanda just talked about picking roommates at orientation, but in general, yes, you can certainly request roommates. That's done through the housing portal. And the important thing is that y'all just have to request each other. So both sides, for them to be able to say yes. What other questions can we answer? Feel free to unmute if you want to shout at us. How is everybody feeling right now as far as kind of what communication you're getting? Is there something that we can be providing to y'all from our end in admissions, or from any of the other departments that we can share, kind of if there's something that would be really helpful for y'all to have?
Hi, my name is Destiny Farrell, and I've been in touch with Miss Shanita Mitchell. I'm actually a Rappahannock scholar, and I got accepted back in December, but I haven't applied yet because I was waiting for the mailed version. But I have to accept it by April 1st, and I don't know where the process is on that. So could I accept it online and not, because I got waived the fever, so I don't the fever. I got waived of the admissions, so I don't have to pay for that. But I don't know how to accept the offer.
Yeah, Destiny. So your admissions counselor's name is Carson Barrier, and I can put her email in the chat. If you email her, we should be able to take care of working with Shanita to get, make sure your fee waiver is waived and stuff, so that you can fill out your intent to enroll form and your scholarship acceptance form and all of that. So I'll put Carson's name and email in the chat. If you reach out to her, she'll help you coordinate that.
Thank you.
Well, I'm happy to let y'all, oh, right, here we go. So, Trinity, there's several orientation dates. How about I go back to that slide real quick? Meet. Here we go.
So the event that you signed up for on April 15th is Destination Day. That's our admitted student open house. I know sometimes they can get confusing as to what you're signed up for and what you're going to, but destination and orientation are different. Destination is a great way to get kind of acquainted with Mary Washington, but orientation is required, and it's the stuff that you really need to know. It's going to be all of the things that are going to set you up to have a successful first semester.
Evangeline, that's a really great question. Evangeline asked, apart from cost of attendance, what are some other things that we should have in mind cost-wise? That is such a good question. So on our end, we kind of provide a budget. If you look at your breakdown of your financial aid package, whenever you get that, of what we call non-billable costs. So this is another piece of jargony thing. So billable costs mean things that the university will bill you for directly. That's if you're staying on campus, that's your housing, that's your meal plan, that is your tuition, that is some fees. So those are things that the university is providing and then send you a bill for, exactly. And then there's also non-billable costs. So that's things that we need to keep in mind when we're thinking about our budget, but aren't going to show up on a bill from Mary Washington. So that's stuff like textbooks. Some classes might have fees if you're going on a field trip, or if you need to buy certain supplies for a class, like an art class, testing booklets, different things like that. Things to think about: textbooks, things to think about, the things for your residence hall room, expenses for transportation. So for the most part, first years cannot have cars on campus. There are some exceptions there, but so when you're thinking about getting around when it comes to going home for the holidays or using our Amtrak and our VRE, our awesome commuter train, which is in downtown Fredericksburg, things to get around, there are lots of different things to think about. So depending on where you're located and kind of what you're expecting and thinking your life at UMW might be like, those are things to keep in mind. Do you have anything to add to that, Amanda? Or as like things to keep in mind?
I think you covered most of it. Alexis asked about an itinerary for orientation and food provided. So food is provided during orientation. Like Emily said, that evening there's a pizza party and stuff. And that's when I mentioned that there is a fee for guests. That's really what that goes to cover. Mm-hmm. Actually, when you pay your enrollment deposit, that $300 that you pay, that is actually what you're paying for, is you're paying for orientation, mm-hmm. And everything like that. So that's what that goes to cover. You don't have to worry about meals being provided. You will get an itinerary closer to the date. I don't even know if they have an itinerary for that quite yet. We're still a little bit ways out, but you'll get an itinerary mailed to you. Yeah. And then Destiny asked what the last day to sign up for orientation is. So orientation registration will be open well into May. You have until May 1st to pay your deposit. And so we're not going to ask you to have we're not going to give you a deadline for anything before then. The only thing I will say, there is a limited number of spaces for each orientation session. So if you know that you have to go to June 15th to 16th because you've got a bunch of other stuff going on that summer, it's better to sign up earlier rather than later. Mm-hmm. Other questions?
Hi, Emily. This is Camila.
Hi.
Hi, so I have a question. So I saw for my financial aid package that there was for the billable cost, there was a fee for auxiliary fees. What exactly is that? And if I'm a commuter student, what exactly do I still have to pay that or?
So I know your package, I touched base with your financial aid officers today, and I know
Mhm.
they're still building it. They said that it should be up with you very, very shortly if you already didn't get it by close of business today. But I know that that new package will be up shortly. So a lot of those numbers that we showed since we switched you to off campus are going to be different. So
Mhm.
there are still fees. That's kind of just part of the tuition world. But we're just breaking it down, item by item. But those numbers will be different.
So
A lot of
so what
those fees-
exactly are the auxiliary fees?
Yeah, so those auxiliary fees go to pay for all the other stuff that you do on campus. So as a student, you get access to the athletic center, and you get access to a bunch of computers, and sporting events and movie nights and all sorts of things. And so those auxiliary fees go to cover some of that. So it's things that you have access to that aren't part of class but are part of the college experience.
Okay, Alexis asked about how
Okay,
much
thank
is
you.
printing. That's I'm sorry, did I just interrupt somebody?
Sorry,
Sorry,
I
I
was
just
just
said thank you.
so obviously I'm the first one in my family to go to college. That's why I'm in this one like Zoom. But so I did get a short answer in the chat, but I did fill out my FAFSA and I have received University of Mary Washington scholarships, and I know other scholarships haven't released their like decisions yet on if you got it or not. But I'm in the nursing program, so I'll have to pay 2 tuitions. So I know there's a good chance I'll have to get student loans. When should I start looking at those or trying to contact banks or something? Because I don't know anything about that, or like how do I apply that?
So I would start now because you're probably going to want to get numbers from a bunch of different places and compare interest rates and things like that. My recommendation from when I went through the student loan process is to look at credit unions. Typically, there's a very small fee for joining a credit union. The one that I used when I was going through this process, the fee was $5. I just had to open a checking account and put $5 in it to join the credit union. And they have typically lower rates for repayment than some of the larger ones. But I would definitely recommend starting sooner so that you can get a bunch of different numbers and see which one is going to be the best fit for you, because there are a lot of options out there. Yeah, that's where I would start.
And Cassidy, if it's helpful, email your admissions counselor and let's set up a time we can go over kind of a cost breakdown too, because I know that the double billing with the nursing program can seem really overwhelming. It really is a good thing. But I also know that like hearing 2 bills can sound really overwhelming. So let's definitely do that.
Yeah. For the nursing program, your bill is going to look different because for the classes you take at Germanna, you're billed the Germanna price. And for the classes you take at UMW, you're paying the UMW price. So you're not paying twice. You're just paying for like the portions that you're taking. But I know that those 2 numbers can be uncomfortable. But you actually aren't paying more than other students.
Ruth asked,
Okay, sorry. Okay, thank you. I'll definitely email the admissions counselor because my parents don't understand it either.
Yeah,
And it's
we're
just
more than
because-
happy to sit down with you and put together a spreadsheet so that we can break those things out.
And the 2 bills do seem intimidating.
Yeah, I
Of
know.
course, of course. One bill seems intimidating. So we're always happy. We have a spreadsheet that we can kind of break down stuff for an individual, and we can look at your package together and we can go through however many times you need and really get to know kind of this simplistic look at it and know what to expect. Ruth asked if I applied to any UMW scholarships, when would I get a response of whether I got awarded one? So I think, Ruth, tell me if I'm wrong, that you're talking about our UMW scholarship database. So for people that have enrolled, so people that have paid their deposit and are coming to UMW in August, there is a UMW General Scholarship Database Manager. So these are donor funded scholarships, meaning that somebody at some point, either a foundation or an individual, set aside money and said, this is for students. And then here's the fun thing, is that donors can create the criteria for who to award that money to. So some donor a long time ago could have said, I want this to go to women whose name starts with an E who live in Fredericksburg, Virginia. And we don't have any that are that specific, but because that's the funds that they set up, there's different criteria that we have to honor. So we've got a good amount of those. And what we do is, rather than have you kind of have to navigate through all these different scholarships and tilt through the ones that you could be eligible for, you fill out kind of this broad application with some references and just some information about you. And then we will kind of let you know which scholarships you are eligible to be considered for. So long answer to your question, Ruth, is that for those scholarships, they will be awarded in July.
All right, Kel asked if we had any guidance onto getting into Madison Hall as a first year. If anyone isn't familiar, Madison Hall is our gender neutral building on campus. The tricky part about Madison is there's not really a way there aren't really any tips for getting into Madison. Madison is not housed on a first come first served basis. So preference in that building is actually given to students who are currently or have recently transitioned. So our trans students do get preference for that housing option. That being said, you can indicate a preference for that when you fill out your housing agreement. So there is a page that asks you about what first year buildings you're interested in. And then on the next page, there should be a question that asks about if you're interested in living in Madison Hall or our all female first year building. So you can indicate your preference there, but there isn't really a way to kind of, up your chances of getting in that building. But I will say we have gender neutral housing options in all of our buildings. In any of our housing options, you can always sign what's called a flexible housing agreement. And basically what that is, it's a form saying that you and your roommate both know that you don't share the same gender, and that you're okay with that. And so you can go ahead and do that. So our residence life team is really, really good about making sure that all of our students have housing options and roommates that they feel safe and comfortable with.
Mm-hmm. And Kel, if you want to talk in any more detail about that, I definitely encourage you to either reach out to Residence Life, like Amanda said, because this is something that we work with all the time. We have students that have wants and needs and housing preferences all the time. So this is definitely a conversation that we have. And we're also all happy to talk about kind of resources on campus, and then just kind of campus community when it comes to the culture that really thrives and is sort of a hub in Madison Hall, but there's also just resources everywhere. So I'm specifically talking about our LGBTQ plus students. We have such an awesome community, and we're always happy to connect you with current students that are very involved and happy to talk about kind of their life and their student experience. So I'm happy to let everybody wrap up their evening and enjoy the sunset that I'm seeing over my apartment building. But thank you all so much for joining us. It really is such a major privilege and part of this job for me, and I'm sure I speak for Ari and Amanda too, that getting to work with first generation students is such a gift. It means so much to me to get to talk to you, to get to talk to your families. It is truly just the reason that I do this. So We're very proud of you for getting this far, for doing all these steps, for coming on this Zoom and hearing all these words. It means a lot to us. You make our jobs really worth it. Please reach out. There is no question that is silly. If you can't find it on the website, it might be because it's complicated. So please feel validated in the things that are challenging and the things that we're learning. Because again, like we talked about at the beginning, it's a family accomplishment, it's a community accomplishment, it's a journey and learning process for everybody. So we are really here to support you. And that's what I got.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Have a great rest of your night.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Good night. Good night. Thank